So now we've come to section 11, the essence of enlightenment. And this is where we really start to delve into the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. And of course, what Bhante starts off again is with the Buddha himself, the Buddha and his non-conceptual insight into the nature of the way things are, subtle and deep and profound. But of course, what happens with the Buddha when he gains enlightenment, when he has that non-conceptual insight? It seems that it's part of the enlightenment experience itself to want to communicate enlightenment. But of course, the Buddha has this moment of doubt, this moment where he thinks, how can I communicate such a profound experience? So Bhante quotes from the Arya Pariyesana Sutta. Then, monks, I thought, now I have gained the doctrine, the Dharma, reality, profound, hard to perceive, hard to know, tranquil, transcendent, beyond the sphere of reasoning, subtle, to be known only by the wise. Mankind is intent on its attachments and takes delight and pleasure in them. For mankind intent on its attachments, it is hard to see this principle, namely conditionness, origination by way of cause. This principle too is hard to see, namely the cessation of all compound things, the renunciation of all clinging to rebirth, the extinction of craving, absence of passion, cessation, nibbana. So yes, the Buddha has a reticence to teach, and you may remember what follows that passage in the Arya Pariyesana Sutta, because what follows that passage is the Buddha seeing that all beings are like lotuses emerging from the mud of existence in different stages of development. And he saw that there are some with little dust in their eyes who would understand the Dharma when it was explained to them. And that those people were lost through not hearing the Dharma. It said that he shook with all beings when he saw them in this way, this image of growth and transcendence, this image of possibility for everybody. It said he shook with them, the anukampa, shaking with this resonance for all beings, out of compassion for all beings. So here's the Buddha with non-conceptual enlightenment that unfolds over a period of time. And he realizes he must teach. And so how does he teach? How does he communicate the Dharma? Well, this non-conceptual insight into reality has to be formulated. It has to be formulated in terms of words, the unknown in terms of the known. So the Buddha formulates it into a general formulation of praticca samutpada, conditioned arising. But that's far too general. That has to be applied into our lives, into what's meaningful to us, what's relevant to us. So he formulates it into different formulas. Bhante mentions the 12 nidanas, the nidana chain, which he'll go into in more detail, and the Four Noble Truths, which he'll also go into in more detail. But the point is that these are specific applications to the needs of his disciples. So you have the insight that's ineffable, that's beyond words and concepts, that has to be communicated into a general formula or universal law, and that has to then be applied to people's individual lives, the people that he was talking to. So remember, the Buddha at this time was wandering over northern India, responding to people, talking to people, formulating it in a way that others could understand. And it's a very useful exercise to think, how do you apply this in your life in a way that helps you? You know, what's the most pertinent application of the universal law of conditioned arising in your own life? So that's the process that we're doing. We're applying it to our own lives. But of course, why don't we just get it? It's quite simple. We have the formula in Pali, in the text, in a few places. This being, that becomes. From the arising of this, that arises. this not being that does not become, from the ceasing of this that ceases. So why isn't it that when we hear that formula, we don't just become a stream entrant in the same way that Sariputta did? Well, I think it's helpful to go back to that text that Sangharakshita quotes, where the Buddha talks about a mankind intent on its attachments. And to understand that the Praticca Samutpada is deep, it's subtle, it's beyond the reach of reasoning. And to look at, in a way, what's the near enemies. I think at different stages in our Dharma life, we understand this principle on a particular level. The danger is to get stuck on a level where we think we've completely understood. It's subtle, it's deep, it has deeper and deeper levels that we can explore. And the main danger is to take it too literally. I think the main danger with Praticca Samutpada is to think that condition arising means that things arise on dependence upon each other, that there are solid, fixed, separate entities. To take it too solidly, in a sense. And this is more of the nature of causation. You know, when you said this to me, I became angry. In that kind of flow of causation, there's a you and there's a me, and you made me angry. So it involves kind of blame, or when I did this, then that. When my mother did that, then this. It becomes very solid, and as if there are discrete entities, one by one, like billiard balls on a billiard table or pool. Where one ball just hits the other, and then that has an effect that then hits another ball. Actually, it's not quite like that. There are lots of niyamas in play, lots of levels of conditionality in play. We are not just affected by things, but we also affect others in ways that we cannot possibly understand. There's many levels and dimensions of Praticca Samutpada that are going on all the time, involving not only mind, not only matter, but also mind, mental states, how that affects the world, how the world affects mental states. There's a flow of conditions happening all the time. So it's not that all things are conditioned, because there are no solid and separate things themselves. So yes, there's always further we can take Praticca Samutpada. And in this way, what we do is we continually reflect on it in our Dharma lives, all the levels at which it operates, using all the niyamas. What we arrive at is that, and looking at it also in very, very specific areas of our lives that we're emotionally engaged with, that aren't just abstract, but things that we really care about. When we apply Praticca Samutpada to those things, then we start to see a universal law. We start to see the universality of Praticca Samutpada as a universal law. And then if we reflect on that, we too can have glimpses of that transcendental insight beyond words and concepts. So just as the Buddha moves from a non-conceptual insight to a universal law to specific applications, we too can move from specific applications to a universal law to glimpses of that non-conceptual insight. And that's release. That's release. It's this chapter ends we're actually with two quotes from the Pali literature, kind of put together, as it were. But maybe you'll talk about those in your groups. Those who realise the causal origination of things sees the truth. One who sees the truth sees the Buddha. So yes, it's taking a deeper look at Praticca Samutpada in all areas of our lives and trying to understand the depth of Praticca Samutpada through those specific examples, which will then lead us to this transcendental insight. So, and in the next section, Bhante then goes on further to explore applications of Praticca Samutpada in more detail.